All right. So Carly, I'm gonna stop my share and hand it off to you.
Just realized I was muted. That's a good start. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Just finishing up these notes, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want me to wait a moment?
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. You can go ahead.
Perfect. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we love that. We love when tech works. It's always touch and go. Okay. We just have a score. Okay. Well, first of all, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor. And my name is Carly, if you didn't catch that. And I'll just introduce myself a little bit and then we can jump right into the content. Okay. There we go. So a little bit about me, just to start. I'm a writer. I'm a communications coordinator for Family Caregivers of BC out here in Canada. And I'm also a freelance marketing consultant. And I think I got into it, like I went to school for writing, but I got into it because I was very passionate about helping businesses and organizations learn how to communicate with their customers better and how to discover new clients in the community. And so that passion kind of led into a podcast called Suited Up Podcast. It can be found just about anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those fun places. And the intent for that was really to create an accessible space for people to hear from entrepreneurs and very entrepreneurial artists about how they got there, what the steps were. I like to kind of grill my guests a bit and go, okay, but how did you get from point A to point B? Not just, that's great that you're successful, right? So that's a little bit about me and about kind of what I bring to the table, my perspective. So I'm just going to move all your faces, I just realized, so I can actually see my screen. So the thing that I am really kind of pushing my clients to ask themselves is, it's important to get in touch with your customers and to acknowledge just the state of the world right now, because it's affected everyone in one way or another. Obviously, we are now hoarding toilet paper and loungewear, and we are bidding adieu to things like, a fancy outfit on a Saturday night and anything related to travel. Unfortunately, it'll happen someday. But, okay, let me see how there we go. Yeah, so the question I'm encouraging all my clients to ask themselves is, what point in the buying cycle are your customers truly at? And I think it's very easy to kind of jump into that assumption that, well, the economy is not doing so great, so obviously their budget is tightening. And I'm really encouraging everyone to kind of look a little bit more closely at the fine details, because I really think it's a little bit more complex than that. In fact, if you asked my bank account would say, girl likes to spend money for hiking and outdoor gear. They're probably profiting, right? So we have to be a little bit in touch to, okay, what's my community? Where are they at right now? Because that might not necessarily be a reflection of what the economy is experiencing right now. So how to answer these questions. I'm sure all of you are very familiar, Google Analytics, diving into your insights and all that. Numbers are super important to answer those questions about what is happening. If numbers have dropped, if numbers have spiked, maybe even looking closely at social media, like what are people engaging with? Are they engaging with content that's really positive because it's a distraction from the pandemic, or are they engaging with stuff that's a little bit more raw and real? That's really important to know in order to get a sense of like how you can be there for your customers and how you can pivot accordingly. But that being said, while that can give you an indication about the pain points of your customers, it's also important to know that there's a lot of speculation when you just look at numbers. And what I always push people to do, I know it sounds old-fashioned, but it's so important to actually have those conversations with your customers to answer the why. So seek out that feedback, whether it's through a survey. I know a lot of businesses are putting out surveys right now, but seriously, they sound old-fashioned. They're so important. And also just, putting Q&As up on your stories or polls, DMs, even if it's one-on-one, it still has value. But I love to really kind of get a conversation going in the comments so that even if you're only conversing with one person, other people can see it. And really ask those questions, even if people, some people won't answer. Some people are good to turtle when you ask and be a little shy, and that's okay. But a lot of your customers, they're going to answer honestly, and they're going to say, yeah, I'm not signing up for this because XYZ. That is your gold. That's going to explain everything. And that's going to tell you how you should pivot so that you're not kind of wasting all this energy reacting and going, oh, it's because of their budget or it's because of this. We got to preserve our energy right now and act in a really intentional way. So what is this, once you have the information, what does this indicate about what your customers need from you? So an example I really wanted to draw on today was something I experienced with a client. And, she was selling this really awesome leadership webinar. And teachers in BC were just flocking to it. I mean, they were loving it. It was like 5 hours long. It was live. And they were like, yes, this is the best thing ever, right? But March 2020 happened, as it happened to us all, and suddenly the numbers dropped. And so we looked at the numbers, we knew the numbers had dropped, but instead of just going, it's because they don't have the budget, we decided to actually put out surveys and start that dialogue with the teachers in BC and go, okay, what's happening and what do you need from us right now at the core of the survey? And the answer was, the government hasn't cut our budget. We are completely overwhelmed. We want this webinar, but we do not have the time in the day. Because I'm sure if you have kids, if you're a teacher yourself, if you have friends who are teachers, they're doing double duty right now. They're showing up in person oftentimes, and they're showing up online, and they're having to refresh their curriculum. So our response was, okay, we have to give them hours in the day. We can't do that. We cannot give them 28, 29 hours. So how can we give them time? So our, reaction was, okay, we have to take this and we have to create a recorded webinar that we break down to smaller segments so that they can do it, 15 minutes while they're eating breakfast in the morning, 15 minutes during their lunch break, so that it is accessible to them and they can do it at their leisure. And the response was great. People were like, yeah, we got the budget, we can pay for it, but we don't have the time. So that was our response. So that's really what I urge you to do with whatever case you are in, whatever industry you're in with your business, is like building trust starts with, seeking out those answers, seeking out the what is happening, why it's happening, and listening and leading with empathy. So that is really important, first and foremost. Like I said, we've got limited time. So pay attention to what's happening and be intentional about seeking out those answers, and don't be afraid to ask. Push yourself, ask. But there are some other ways as well that we can foster trust right now. So something that I've noticed in 2020 that's really come to light is a lot of companies aren't super clear on their values. Obviously, like we all hopefully all stand for kindness, all stand for honesty, all those things. But what are your top 5? What are your core values? I mean, how many of you have had that experience where, let's say you're looking to buy a new fridge and you're online and you're chatting in the chat box with someone. It's like a great experience. They're respecting your boundaries about what your budget is, what your constraints are, what you're looking for. And then later you pick up the phone and you talk to someone else at the organization, and it's a completely different experience. To me, that's a reflection that the company really hasn't gotten clear about what their values are. Because once you are clear, then you'll act more consistent. You'll behave, you'll like things that reflect your values, you'll comment on things that reflect your values, you'll share, et cetera, right? That's super, super important. And the reason it's important is especially right now, is because 2020 has been the most unpredictable year, right? Every day it's a different protocol, there's different rules, and people are craving a company that can be reliable, that's predictable. So get clear on those values now more than ever. The other thing is feedback. A lot of people are getting negative feedback. They've never gotten it before because maybe they have a great product. But there's a lot of pent up like rage and frustration. So just try and like always acknowledge it. First of all, the worst thing you can do is not acknowledge feedback, even if it's negative. Acknowledge it and try and find value in it, even if it's someone being a little bit of a tree monster online, right? Sometimes we experience trolls, but try and find the value in it as much as you can, and form a game plan. Always say, thank you for your feedback. Here's our game plan to change accordingly, because there probably is some value in there, right? Maybe the value isn't that you have to change your product or anything to that effect, but maybe it's just, okay, a lot of my clients might be feeling really frustrated right now. How can I address that? How can I make them feel seen and feel heard right now? Another thing that I'm sure you all know, but this is so important right now, excuse me, is that not all posts should be sales right now. One example that I want to draw on is, I don't know if you follow her, but Jam Gamble did a really great IGTV recently. And I don't think I've ever watched a full IGTV, like just sat through and been like, yeah, live, 30 minutes, popcorn, let's go. But Jam was fantastic because first of all, she's like, you guys, it's like a Hallmark, Christmas movie sort of day. Like I am not feeling it, but I have a feeling you might not be feeling it either. So let me give you like a freebie. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to give me your email. Let me just be there for you right now. Let's have a conversation. Let's go. And it was great. And I was like, yes, popcorn in hand. Like I need this. Thank you, Jam. So that's something to be really cognizant of right now, is like, just show up for people, like lead with empathy, be there, acknowledge it. Another thing, again, I'm sure you all like have your social media planning schedules, you go to your calendar, but that is so crucial right now, is being consistent, even when we don't want to show up. Like, even if that means just showing up and being like, it's not a good day. I get it. I hear you. Let's talk about it. I just feel like that is so important, because it comes back to that sense of, to that point about, this has been a really unpredictable year. People need consistency about how you show up, when you show up, all those points. So yeah, that's kind of a little summary. I really wanted to leave a fair amount of time for questions. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time. But by all means, like, please, ask now if you have time, and also feel free to reach out to me after this. I always love having conversations and kind of brainstorming and getting ideas together about how we can pivot right now, because I know it's a challenging time for everyone, for all people in business. So
definitely. Do you have any, because you talked about like survey questions. We talk about client interviews a lot as well in this group. And so what's like your go-to question? Like if you can only ask one question, what's your go-to question?
For like asking customers what?
Yeah.
I would say just getting to the heart of it. Like, how can we be there for you right now? I think that's a really important one. Yeah, I think that's a really, really important one. How can we be there for you right now? And I think that really, I think, it's always important to ask a question that's not going to result in a yes or no answer for the most part. Like, get them talking about their unique experience as an individual, not just as like a herd of sheep. Like, treat them as an individual, like get specific with them, ask those, make sure that they feel comfortable to answer and give their specific individual take on things.
Right. So the reason why I asked, because you gave a really, really good example. And I know that most are not comfortable with like getting down to that nitty gritty. They feel like they're going to get like a one-sided answer, and they're probably going to take it personally. So the example she gave was something along the lines of asking them why they haven't moved forward with XYZ. And I wrote down like Kristen and Nikita, right? So we all have those potentials in our business that we can ask just a simple question. What's getting in your way?
Yeah.
What's getting in your way? And, a lot of us, we assume because it's money. So she's spot on. We always assume it's money, and it's very rarely money. Wouldn't you say, Carly? It's very rarely money.
Oh yeah, a lot of it has to do with like just life things, right? We're all humans. It's like having a bad day, here's why, you know? Um, and so I think that the less we assume and the more we just ask and have conversations, like a business is a dialogue, it's not a monologue, right? Like we customers don't have all the control and we don't have all the control. It is a relationship. And so I think that's something that I'm really pushing with my approach with clients about a marketing strategy is it's like, don't just talk at them. Like, you know, and don't talk down to them. Like these are people who have unique stories and like engage with them, foster a community. I really do believe that the businesses that will survive this, even if you're not necessarily making tremendous sales right now compared to what you were prior to March, they're the ones who are just going to continue to foster trust with the customers they have and more within the community, right? Like I see a lot of people who are like, I need to go seek people out, and they're kind of running away from the customers they have, trying to find new customers. Like engage with the people you have, foster that community.
Yep, wholeheartedly agree. There is there typically when someone's just starting a business, I always say utilize your current network.
Yeah.
Right. The people that you currently have access to, because it's all about, like, for me, I believe that business is a numbers game. So the more people that know about you, the more people will be like, even if it's not that person in particular, it could be like Tess sitting in this call and knowing Nikita's a sex coach. She's talking to a friend of hers who's having issues in her relationship. Oh, actually, I'm in this group. So like understand that every single interaction you have is a sales pitch. All right. How you show up and showing up consistently is what's most important.
Yes, absolutely. That's so well said. And I think, you know, as an individual too, like if you're clear on your values as an individual and in relationship to your company values, you know, how Nikita shows up here, a big thing for her is respect, and she's treating people with respect. And we like that, you know, we're going to be more trusting of her and want to check out her services because we're like, I like her energy. I like how she's showing up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any other questions? Or like, I know I threw Nikita and Kristen. By the way, welcome, Ashley. I saw you do it.
Hi, Ashley.
Hey.
Hey. But do you have any questions, Kristen? I saw you unmuted.
Yes. So I'm, relatively small as far as my, business is concerned, just starting this year even. What are some, I guess, tips on how to really build that trust when you don't really have a lot of people to kind of like, to target?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think I see that with a lot of small businesses where they're hesitant to engage like they're a big influencer, if you know what I mean. Like they're kind of just like, well, I'm not there yet, so I'm not going to do that live, or I'm not, just do it. And also like it's about having those conversations, like for the first half an hour after you posted something, like be there, be ready to reply to a comment. Don't leave it for even a couple hours, like be there right away. And like get to know the people in your community and support them as well, right? I think that's what it really comes down to, is like, don't wait till you make it big. And that being said, simultaneously, don't talk to them like they're a herd. Like these are individual people, right? Like, and there's a beauty to that. Like, I think I've definitely had conversations with friends where people have sought out influencers to push their products. And these influencers have had, many, many, many followers, where the expectation was we'll get big conversion. But, people who have small followings sometimes have the best conversion because they are paying attention to their people, And so I think that's the balance, is like, talk to them as individuals and cherish that, you know, it's a great to have a small community. There's a lot of benefit. You get to know them a little bit better one-on-one. And then as your community grows, you're like, oh yeah, hey, Kristen, like, yeah, I haven't forgotten you. Let's talk about what's going on in your life. Let's talk about how I can support you.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. And especially with like DMs, how you mentioned, it's a beautiful strategy. And then just showing up on their page too, you know, showing up on their page and commenting on their post. And oh my gosh, I'm so proud. Like for you, Kristen, and your target is other business owners. I'm so proud of you. You finally committed to doing X, Y, Z, you know, just giving them shout outs and stuff.
Yeah. Be a cheerleader for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I personally feel like it's our competitive advantage that we are small.
Yes.
Yes. You know, people expect that one-to-one relationship. They're not expecting you to be like Nike, you know, and never take hours to respond to a comment.
Or TELUS putting you on hold for like hours and hours, and you're like, okay. Right? Like, you seek out the small guys as a response. And yeah, I think that's very true. I think there is a benefit to having a small community and just fostering that. And I think, you know, engagement, like how many comments you get versus, like, you might have a very, very small following, but if you have tons and tons of comments and people are super engaged, like, it doesn't matter if you have a small following, you're getting engagement, you're getting conversion, your community's there. And if they're having a really good experience, they will bring more, right? They will bring more people and be like, hey, you got to check this out. This is great. I'm having an awesome experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else have any questions? Kristen, was that helpful? Did that give you some practical examples?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yay. I'm glad.
I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you so much for sharing. Like, I really needed to hear this.
Oh, I'm so glad. That like really touches my heart. It was so lovely to meet all of you. You're really, really interesting. Your businesses sound really interesting, and it's really nice to be like in a room, you know what I mean, full of people who are just like, you know, working hard, setting goals, and cheering each other on. I think we need more of that right now.
We definitely do.
Yeah. Well, I will stop sharing my screen. I just realized it's like been up there for a good 1,000 years.
Okay, perfect. I did want to hint on one other thing that you said, because a lot of people are talking, like you said, about COVID and the response to COVID, and people thinking that money is tight. And I love your perspective when you said that because of COVID, people are craving reliability and stability. So they would love it more if you showed up consistently. Yes. And I love that, because that's another reason for people to show up consistent. Why do I keep saying consistency?
Girl, I hear you. It's okay. I am having trouble with English myself, and I'm a podcast host. So what does that say? Yeah, and I think I actually had a really interesting conversation with an entrepreneur recently who was like, yeah, should I just like stop posting? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, should I, like, is it disrespectful? And I was like, you know, it's not about showing up or not showing up. I think that's a reflection of respect. It's how you show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yep. So, you know, again, company values, like, be reflective about like what you're saying in your posts, and does that reflect what you stand for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A really good thing too, it just crossed my mind, Kristen, is like that what we do is for the most part, when people follow our Instagram, I see Ashley's comment, when people follow our Instagram, we send them a DM that says something like, hey, thanks so much for showing up. If you have any questions, feel free to utilize this as a resource. We're an open book. Like we basically make an introduction saying like, hey, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And
Kristen.
And I think that's always a great thing, is like always leave the door open for them to come to you as well. Yeah, that's a really great thing. Yeah.
Ashley said consistency, the thorn in my side. Right? It's hard to do. It is, but I think I think it's not so much consistency over frequency, because a lot of
Yeah.
people confuse the two. We
Oh,
think, oh,
yeah.
we show up 7 times a day.
You don't have to show up. Let me tell you. I've had to explain this to many people. I'm like, you do not have to live on the gram. That is not like, that's not a bed and breakfast. Like, don't stay there.
Right.
Make guest appearances. But yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's about consistency over frequency. It's about quality over quantity. And, you know, like, yeah, that's the thing, is like, just, I think it's worth taking your time and crafting something that's from the heart. And yeah, and balancing. I think when you put a little bit more thought into it and don't do it all the time, you're kind of frantic about it. There's fewer mistakes, and there's also, you know, just based on writing grammatically, but also you're showing up in a way where you have a good pulse on the balance of your content. Because you don't want to like shove the sales down their throat, right? Like, you gotta have some boundaries, gotta give them some breathing room here and there. It's all a balance. It's a dance.
Yep. Definitely agree. I don't see any other questions. Carly, you can definitely stick around and hang out with us if you want. I'm just gonna throw the notes back up here.
Sure.
And get these.